The galaxy was quiet, its countless stars shining like distant dreams. The great civilizations of the Council of Stars had always believed that they were the masters of the universe. For eons, they had ruled over the galaxy, confident that no force could challenge their power. But all of that was about to change. No one had seen it coming. The Council had spent centuries studying the stars, exploring new worlds, and building their mighty fleets. Yet, one race had been silently observing them from the shadows: humanity. While the Council's leaders focused on maintaining their dominance, humanity had been quietly preparing something that would make them tremble in fear. On the outskirts of the galaxy, far from the prying eyes of the Council, humanity had been building something far beyond anything the Council could imagine. Dark matter warships. These ships were like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. They defied all known laws of physics, existing in a state that could not be understood by even the brightest minds of the Council. They were the product of centuries of research, of pushing the boundaries of science and technology. But there was one thing no one knew: these warships were powered by something far more dangerous than mere energy. They were powered by the very fabric of the universe itself. Humanity had discovered how to harness the power of dark matter, a substance so mysterious that no one had dared to understand it fully. The warships themselves were more than just weapons; they were alive, constantly changing, evolving, and growing stronger. The Council had no idea that humanity had unlocked this power, let alone that it was capable of creating a fleet capable of challenging their supremacy. When the first of the dark matter warships appeared in the sky of a distant star system, the galaxy stood still. No one could explain it. The ship was silent, dark, and ominous, its very presence sending waves of fear through the hearts of those who saw it. The Council had no answers. Their most advanced scanners couldn't even pick up the ship's energy readings. It was like the warship didn't exist in the same reality as everything else. The news spread quickly. The Council's best minds gathered, trying to make sense of what had just happened. The appearance of the warship was like a ghost story brought to life, an impossible legend that had suddenly become all too real. No one knew who had built it or how. But one thing was certain: the galaxy had just witnessed the birth of something far more powerful than anything the Council had ever dreamed of. As the dark matter warship moved slowly through the stars, its dark surface shimmered like the night sky, hiding untold secrets within. It didn't move like other ships. It didn't have the sleek, controlled movement of the Council's finest fleets. Instead, it drifted, as if guided by an invisible force, as if it had a purpose far beyond what anyone could comprehend. The galaxy's leaders scrambled to react, but it was already too late. The warship had sent a message to every corner of the galaxy. A message that said humanity had arrived, and they had brought with them a power that could not be ignored. The Council was in chaos. How could this have happened? How had humanity, the underdogs of the galaxy, developed such a force? The entire galaxy had always viewed humanity as insignificant, a small, unimportant race lost in the vastness of space. But now, humanity's power was undeniable. The Council of Stars had always believed they were the only ones who could shape the future of the galaxy, but this mysterious emergence of humanity's dark matter warships was about to change everything. The first whispers of fear spread across the stars. No one knew what humanity's true intentions were, but one thing was clear: the galaxy would never be the same again. The power that had remained hidden for so long had now come to light, and the Council was left speechless, unsure of how to respond. The galaxy had barely come to terms with the existence of humanity's dark matter warships when the unthinkable happened. The first battle began. No one had expected it to happen so soon. Humanity had remained silent for so long, hiding their power in the shadows. Now, they were making their move. It started on the edge of Council territory, in a star system no one had cared much about. The Council's patrol fleet, ever watchful, was stationed there, unaware of the incoming threat. They had been tasked with monitoring the quiet corners of the galaxy, making sure no one was foolish enough to challenge the Council's rule. They thought it was routine, another uneventful patrol. But they were wrong. The first signs of trouble came with a sudden, eerie signal. The Council's scanners picked up a strange anomaly, a disturbance in the fabric of space. It wasn't a natural phenomenon, and it certainly wasn't something the Council had ever seen before. The signal was faint but unmistakable. It was the dark matter warships, and they were moving fast. The patrol fleet immediately scrambled into formation, readying their weapons, preparing for what they thought would be a simple skirmish. They had faced countless enemies in their time, and they were confident in their strength. But nothing could prepare them for what came next. As the dark matter warships entered the system, they appeared out of nowhere, seemingly materializing from thin air. There was no warning, no build-up. One moment, the space was clear, the next, it was filled with the massive, dark ships. They moved as if they owned the space around them, silent and unyielding. The Council fleet opened fire, but it was like throwing pebbles at a mountain. The shots barely touched the warships. The dark matter technology was beyond anything the Council had ever encountered. The warships seemed to absorb the energy, bending it around them like it didn't even exist. It was as though the warships were invincible. Panic spread through the Council fleet. The warships were unstoppable, their dark hulls absorbing every attack. The crew members, trained for years to fight in battle, were now helpless. They had no idea how to deal with this new threat. It was as if they were facing a force of nature itself, something that could not be reasoned with or understood. The dark matter warships fought with a cold, unfeeling precision. They didn't move like other ships, dodging and weaving to avoid fire. Instead, they simply floated, and when the time was right, they struck. Their weapons unleashed waves of dark energy that tore through the Council's ships like paper. Each blast felt like an earthquake, a shockwave that rattled the very stars themselves. The battle raged on for hours. It was unlike any battle the Council had fought before. There was no grand strategy, no intricate maneuvers. The dark matter warships didn't need them. They were a force of raw, untamed power, and they had no intention of backing down. The Council fleet, once proud and invincible, was now in full retreat. The warships pursued them relentlessly, moving through space with an unnatural grace. The Council's most powerful ships fell, one by one, unable to withstand the might of humanity's new weapon. The galaxy watched in disbelief as humanity's dark matter warships left a trail of destruction in their wake. For the first time in centuries, the Council was on the defensive. They had underestimated humanity, and now they were paying the price. The once feared fleet of the Council was falling apart, and there was no one left to turn to for help. The Council's leaders were in shock, scrambling for answers. How had humanity done this? How had they built such an unstoppable force? The warships didn't stop when the battle ended. They didn't celebrate or gloat over their victory. Instead, they simply faded into the darkness of space, as if the battle had been nothing more than a warning. The message was clear: humanity was not to be underestimated. The galaxy had just learned a harsh truth: they had awakened something far greater than themselves. The galaxy held its breath. The Council of Stars, once untouchable, had been humbled. No one knew what would come next, but one thing was certain: this was only the beginning. The galaxy had never been the same since the first battle. Humanity's dark matter warships had shattered the illusion of the Council's invincibility, leaving the galaxy in chaos. But as the stars flickered in the wake of their destruction, a deeper mystery began to unfold, one that no one had expected. On the Council's homeworld, the greatest minds of the galaxy were working tirelessly to understand what had just happened. Scientists, engineers, and military strategists were all gathered in secret, desperate to find a way to stop humanity's warships. But no one had answers. No one could explain how these ships, powered by dark matter, had come into existence. Among the Council's elite was Dr. Alicia Roven, one of the brightest physicists in the galaxy. She had spent her life studying the very fabric of space and time, and she had heard whispers about dark matter for years. But no one had ever believed it was real, until now. Dr. Roven was given access to the wreckage of a dark matter warship that had been captured during the battle. It was a piece of the ship that had been recovered, left floating in space, its strange energy field still active. She had no idea what she was about to uncover. As she and her team studied the ship's remains, they found that it wasn't made of any known material. The hull seemed to shift, constantly changing, as though it was alive. They could barely understand the energy readings coming from it. It was unlike anything they had ever encountered. It was as if the ship itself existed outside of their reality, as though it was a part of something greater, something that could not be explained by science. Dr. Rovan spent days trying to understand what she was looking at. She ran tests, checked the ship's energy output, and attempted to study its structure. But each attempt brought more questions than answers. That was when she made a discovery that would change everything. The dark matter warship wasn't just powered by dark matter, it was built from it. The very fabric of the ship, its core, and its weapons were all made from a material that existed beyond the known universe. It was not simply a fuel source, it was a sentient force, an intelligence that had bonded with humanity. Dr. Rovan's heart raced as she pieced the information together. Humanity hadn't just discovered dark matter, they had made contact with it. The dark matter wasn't just an energy source, it was alive, and it had chosen humanity as its partner. The warships were not machines. They were living beings, connected to humanity in ways that were impossible to fully understand. But this discovery only raised more terrifying questions. How had humanity made this connection? How had they unlocked the secrets of dark matter? And most importantly, what did it mean for the future of the galaxy? Dr. Rovan knew that if the Council found out about her discovery, they would do everything in their power to stop humanity and their dark matter alliance. But she couldn't keep the truth to herself. The galaxy needed to understand what was at stake. The warships weren't just weapons of destruction, they were a force of nature that could not be controlled. As Dr. Rovan looked at the data in front of her, she realized that humanity was not the only one who had underestimated dark matter. The Council had no idea what they were dealing with. They had always believed that power came from technology, from weapons and fleets. But humanity had discovered something far greater, a power that could not be measured, a force that could bend the very laws of the universe. The true nature of the dark matter warships was now clear, and the galaxy was facing a new reality. Humanity had unlocked a power that no one could fully comprehend. It wasn't just a weapon. It was the beginning of something far more dangerous, something that could reshape the galaxy in ways no one could predict. The Council's leaders were left with a choice. They could try to fight back against humanity, risking the wrath of the dark matter itself, or they could try to understand it, to negotiate with it, and hope that they could find a way to live alongside this new force. But one thing was certain, the galaxy would never be the same again. The discovery of the true nature of humanity's dark matter warships sent shockwaves through the galaxy. For days, the leaders of the Council sat in silence, trying to process the information. Their once unshakable confidence was shattered. Humanity had unlocked a power that no one understood, and now the galaxy was at a crossroads. The future was uncertain, and every decision seemed like a gamble. But the Council's leaders were not ones to surrender easily. They had ruled the galaxy for centuries, and they were not about to let a small race of humans, powered by a mysterious force, overthrow their rule. They began to plot their next move. In secret, they gathered their most powerful fleets. They knew they could not let humanity's dark matter warships go unchallenged. If they allowed humanity to continue unopposed, the balance of power would shift irreparably. The Council's fleets were vast, their ships unmatched in firepower and technology. But they also knew that fighting humanity's warships would not be easy. The dark matter warships had proven themselves capable of withstanding anything the Council threw at them. The Council's war strategy was simple: overwhelm humanity with sheer numbers. They would bring their most advanced ships, equipped with the latest technology, and strike at the heart of humanity's forces. The plan was to disable the warships, capture their secrets, and crush humanity's rising power once and for all. The Council fleet moved swiftly, gathering in the neutral zone between their territories and humanity's. The first wave of ships, massive battlecruisers and dreadnoughts, formed a blockade, cutting off any potential escape routes. The warships didn't stand a chance against the full might of the Council fleet, or so they thought. As the first wave of Council ships moved into position, humanity's warships emerged from the darkness, silent and imposing. The Council's scanners picked up the strange energy signals again, the same unsettling readings they had encountered in the first battle. The warships were here, but this time, the Council was ready. Or so they thought. The battle began with a deafening roar, as the Council ships opened fire, unleashing torrents of plasma and laser beams into the approaching warships. The sheer force of their attack was meant to overwhelm any defense, to shatter the dark matter ships with raw power. But the warships simply absorbed the attacks, their dark surfaces glowing faintly as they deflected the energy. It was as if the weapons of the Council didn't even exist in the same realm as the warships. The Council fleet had never encountered anything like this. Their most advanced weapons were ineffective, their technology useless against the living power of dark matter. Desperation set in as the warships began to retaliate, firing blasts of raw energy that ripped through the Council's ships like paper. In the chaos of battle, the Council fleet's commanders ordered their forces to regroup, to rethink their tactics. But it was too late. The warships had already breached their lines. Humanity's ships fought with cold precision, cutting through the Council fleet with ease. The energy blasts from the warships tore through shields and armor, leaving nothing but destruction in their wake. The battle was a massacre. The Council fleet, once proud and powerful, was being torn apart. Every ship that fell sent a ripple of fear through the remaining forces. The tide of war had shifted, and the Council realized just how outmatched they were. They had underestimated humanity, and now they were paying the price. Despite their best efforts, the Council's forces were unable to regroup. The dark matter warships were too powerful, too unpredictable. Their very presence seemed to warp the fabric of space itself. It was as if the warships were not simply part of the battle, they were the battle, an unstoppable force that bent reality to their will. With the Council's forces in full retreat, the warships continued their relentless advance. They showed no mercy. Every ship that fell was another reminder of humanity's power. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as the once mighty Council fleet was destroyed. As the battle came to an end, the warships faded back into the void, leaving behind nothing but the remains of the Council's forces. The message was clear: humanity was no longer a mere player in the galaxy's game. They had become the game changers, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Council's leadership was in crisis. Their once unshakable authority had been shattered, and they were left with nothing but questions. How could they defeat humanity's dark matter warships? How could they survive in a galaxy where their power no longer meant anything? One thing was certain: the Council's time was running out. The galaxy was on the edge of a precipice. After the catastrophic battles and the destruction of the Council's mightiest fleets, the question everyone had been asking finally had an answer. Humanity had not only revealed their power but had also demonstrated that no force in the galaxy could challenge them. The Council's reign was crumbling, and the stars themselves seemed to tremble in fear. As the remnants of the Council scrambled to formulate a response, an unexpected silence fell over the galaxy. The dark matter warships, after their devastating victories, withdrew into the shadows, as mysteriously as they had appeared. Humanity's message was sent, not through words, but through the sheer force of their power. The Council's leaders, once the unquestioned rulers of the stars, now found themselves facing an uncertain future. Their armies had been shattered, their fleets broken. They could no longer rely on their weapons or their technological superiority. The power that humanity wielded was something beyond their comprehension, something that could not be defeated by traditional means. Yet, in the aftermath of the chaos, a new question emerged. The galaxy no longer feared humanity as it had before; instead, they began to wonder about their true intentions. What did humanity want? Were they simply seeking revenge for past wrongs, or did they have a greater purpose in mind? The dark matter warships were not just weapons of destruction, they were sentient beings, powered by a force that transcended the laws of physics. Could humanity control them? Or would the dark matter eventually turn against them, consuming everything in its path? For the first time in centuries, the galaxy stood united in uncertainty. The once mighty council was no longer in control. The galaxy's fate was now in the hands of humanity, and the sentient dark matter that powered their warships. On a quiet world, away from the turmoil, humanity's leaders gathered. There were no celebrations, no cheers. Instead, there was a solemn silence. They had won, yes, but at what cost? The dark matter warships, with their incredible power, were now a part of humanity's future. But were they the future of the galaxy, or would they be the end of it? The leaders of humanity faced a choice, one that would determine the fate of every star, every world, and every life. They could continue their path of destruction, wiping out the remnants of the council and taking control of the galaxy. Or, they could seek peace, reaching out to the galaxy's civilizations and offering them a new future, a future where humanity's power could be used to protect, not to destroy. The decision weighed heavily on their hearts. On one hand, they had the power to dominate, to rule the galaxy as they had always been underestimated. The council's fleets were gone, their leadership shattered. Humanity could take their place as the new rulers of the stars. But at what cost? Would they become the very thing they had fought against for so long, tyrants who sought to control all that lay before them? On the other hand, humanity had the power to change the galaxy for the better. The dark matter warships, with their sentience, could be a tool for peace, not war. Humanity could lead the way in forging a new era of cooperation, using their power to protect and unite the galaxy's diverse civilizations. But was this even possible? Could the dark matter allow humanity to tame its power and use it for good? Or would it consume them, just as it had consumed so many before them? The moment of decision came. Humanity's leaders stood at a crossroads, and with one final, unified voice, they made their choice. They chose peace. The dark matter warships, instead of being a force of destruction, would become guardians of the galaxy, symbols of a new future, where power was not about domination, but about protection. They reached out to the remnants of the council, offering a chance for reconciliation. They sent ambassadors to the worlds that had once trembled in fear, inviting them to join in building a new alliance, a galaxy where all races could live in harmony. The power of the dark matter warships would no longer be used to conquer, but to defend, to ensure that no one would ever again suffer under the weight of tyranny. And so, the galaxy began its slow, painful journey towards healing. Humanity had proven that they were more than the sum of their weapons. They had shown that, even with unimaginable power, they could choose to protect rather than destroy. The dark matter warships, once the harbingers of fear and destruction, now stood as the protectors of a new galaxy, a galaxy united by the lessons of the past and the hope for a brighter future. The galaxy would never forget the price of peace, nor the choice that humanity had made. The dark matter warships, once feared by all, had become symbols of the power to choose differently, symbols of the strength to build, not just to break.